Recording, okay. Okay. Welcome to Bridal Sessions April edition. Today we are talking about how to do change, specifically for brides. I think so many people underestimate what a huge change this is in your life. And if you understand the dynamics of change, it's going to go a lot smoother. All right. Quickly about me, I'm Kara Maureen, bridal coach. I'm a life coach, girl mom, vintage lover. Like if I was not here doing this, I would literally be down the shop at um, the consignment store. Like I'm like an antique junkie. I don't know where that came from, but that is my other love if I wasn't doing this. And what I help people do is I help brides navigate the stress and drama that are inevitable that come up when you're getting married. No matter how calm, cool, collected, like intuitive, introspective, fabulous you are, the drama is just part of it. And that's what we're going to talk about today, why that is. A little about my background. I went to an all girls Catholic school here in DC. Then I went on to the College of the Holy Cross to study sociology. Then I got my master's in social work at University of Pennsylvania. And I came out still thinking like, these aren't like, who are my people? Like I wasn't super into addiction. I worked with like the families of homicide victims, like all of these adoption, all of these sort of dramatic issues. And I was like, these are not quite my people. That brings me to life coaching. Found that I was like, this is my thing. Like I love helping super smart, super savvy people who are just having these obstacles and having these things thrown in their path that are keeping them back from like really enjoying their life or really getting the things they want out of it. So hence where I am now. I started out in the dating world and then helping women with the whole dating process, because as you probably know, that's like its whole kit and caboodle. But once I got married, I was like, whoa, here is the gap in the market. Like getting married, everybody thinks is like the easy time. Like I thought after I found my person, like, okay, now like all the self introspection and self-development, self-help can like chill out. Like I got somewhere. And then I was like, oh my God, having a intercultural wedding was like it literally um knocked me off my feet, kind of. I mean, yes, I was in love, but also I was like, what is happening here with my Irish Catholic family and his Persian family trying to like make a wedding with like completely different expectations and during the week of Christmas, 1 year after we had met, like it was a whole thing. But I survived and enjoyed it. But I was like, this is like a deep, dark secret, and like brides need to know. So that is how my business was born. So let's talk about change, sort of just like the big, broad concept of change. It always starts with a catalytic event. Something comes into your life. It could be like a car accident, someone dying, getting a cancer diagnosis. Those are sort of those shocking, like changes that stop your world in like a moment. Then there's the growth, like college, a promotion, a divorce, like you just grew out of who you were and you have to go to this next level. And then there's the opportunity, a new job, a move, a proposal where it's like something's being offered to you for and you accept the change. So these are kind of like usually the good changes that people think it's like all sunshine and rainbows. And yet they forget the same dynamic that happens there with the cancer diagnosis or the divorce is also going to happen with something like a wedding. So quickly to go, um, we use sort of in coaching, we use just like the butterfly model. Um, the caterpillar is just living his life every day. His job is just to eat, eat, eat. And then one day he decides to create a cocoon out of his own saliva. That's the catalytic event. He goes into square one, he dissolves literally into a goo, like all the cells like break apart and it's like a goo. It's not even a caterpillar. It's not a butterfly. It is actual goo. It's like a melting. It's a death. It's a rebirth. Then he moves into starting to form the new body. We call that the dreaming and scheming phase. And then there's the hero saga. When he's trying to break out of the chrysalis, it's such an intense thing to watch. And like people often want to help. But of course, if you help, then the butterfly dies. So it's this like part of the journey, like that you have to go and do it yourself. That is um, the only way that it works. And that's so true in the work that I do with brides. It's like, I could come on in there and like scream at your mama for you, but that's not going to solve the problem. It's like giving you the tools to for you to do it yourself that makes the difference. And then you get to stage 4, which is the promised land when the um, butterfly takes flight. So I'll maybe be referencing that, but that's just to give you sort of like nature example. Like that's what we're looking at. You go through the change cycle all through your life. You can go through it with your job while your other part is good. You can go through it with your family. Every once in a while, you go through all of it at once. Those people that like get married, move, have a baby, get a new job, like sometimes, and that will literally cause like the death, so much a huge death of who you were in order to be reborn. And it's not fun, it's not pretty, but it's always worth it. So square one is sort of when we jump into that new phase. And the mantra for square one is I don't know what's going on here, and that's okay. Pretty much because especially it's funny with getting engaged, like, you thought you knew how it was gonna go. You thought you knew how it was gonna feel, and for so many of us, and this is absolutely me too, it's like, "This isn't like how I thought it was gonna feel." Like, you don't have the body you thought you'd have, you don't feel that sense of worth and, like, chosen and, like, goddess that you thought you were gonna feel, that you projected onto all your friends as having when they got engaged, and now you're like, "Oh my gosh, is like, am I the only one that doesn't feel that? I thought they felt that. Nobody said that." So there's so much that goes on. It's a lot about like, so a lot of that involves like dissolving your belief systems. It's like all the beliefs that got you to this moment. Once you get into the moment, you realize they're no longer serving you. And so a lot of this is about like taking down like your old belief systems, and just being really kind to yourself, letting things come up like grief, insecurity, confusion, overwhelm. Like so many girls are like, I've been trying to get married for 10 years. Why am I sad that I'm engaged? And it's like, that's where it's like that old belief system isn't serving you. So it's like allowing for all of these like weird, unexpected feelings and feeling like this is disorienting, allowing that to be okay, expecting that and knowing that is huge. And a big part of like the square one phase is surrender. Just don't fight it. Don't try to like put on the fake face. Like allow the emotions to come through and just remind yourself a little bit of gratitude. Like, I do have what I want. I just didn't know it would be like this. So it's like gratitude and then surrendering to like the reality of the sort of goo feeling because that's the stage you're in. Let it be that way. So, like right when you're first engaged, I always sort of recommend don't make any big proclamations because like it's all about the internal. Like let yourself settle into like what does it feel like to be engaged? What does it look like? What is happening around me? Like what do I want it to mean? What did I want as a 12-year-old as opposed to like a 30-year-old? Like so let all of that like marinate and recompose itself so that you can move into square two. And square two is after you're sort of like recovering from some of the emotional like turbulence that's come up. And you're looking around and you're realizing like there are no rules here. Like there is no prescription. Like for so many of us who were like the good student and went through and checked all the boxes and got all the degrees, like I was, once you start to realize, in this kind of decision, getting engaged, there is like there's the way you think it's supposed to go, the way that you think everyone's going to act, the way you think, and then you start to realize like there are no rules, and that's good. Like it allows for creativity and spaciousness, and an understanding you really do have options. Once you get through that square one phase and you feel a little more confident in your new identity, you can start to think like, well, who do I want to be? What does it look like to get married to me? What does a wedding mean to me? What do my relationships mean to me? And you stop grieving like the old life. You stop grieving that you're not going to be single and not be having like these drunk nights where you don't know who you're going home with, like all of those things. You're over that part, and now you're really starting to like think about like, ooh, how do I want this to go? And like you and your fiance, like, do we want to have like a kegger? Do we want to elope? Do we want to wait till Corona's over to have the ballroom that we always expected? It's like you really start the dreaming and scheming phase. This is my favorite phase. Like I love square two because it's got like the calmness and security of being over like the grieving stuff, but it also has so like there's so much possibility and like everything seems possible in this phase, which is awesome. And then you get to square three, where you're like, okay, we've got our plan. Now let's execute. And the mantra for square three is this is harder than I thought it'd be. And that's okay. And I think every bride can relate to that. Like we've been to a billion weddings. We've seen a million weddings happening. Like, why is it so hard when we're trying to do it? Like, whether it's not being able to like get your rental people to agree with your caterer, or whether it's like getting your mother-in-law on board with your plan. Like, why is it so hard? Like, Square three is always hard. It's sort of known as the hero saga, the going through and trying to execute something in the external world that you've created in your internal world is like what stories are going to be made of. Like, these are the things, that trials and the tribulations of trying to like put something out there, trying to be like, okay, here's our plan and here's how it's going to be in the real world. It's like, and all, I mean, everybody has like these, it's like, how is this even a thing? But like, they will be funny stories later when you're in it. Not that funny, especially because this is the stage. Square three is the stage with brides will really, I think, connect with is like when you say, like, oh, well, here's my plan. And it takes like other humans, whether they're your guests, your family approving, paying, planners, like all the people, bridesmaids, all that stuff. This is where they all come into play because you're like, okay, I'm going to do a thing and you guys are all going to do it. And then you get other people involved. And that is just recipe for conflict and drama and people pushing back. And so it can send you back, you can come up with this beautiful plan with your fiance, and then your parents are like, well, we're not paying for that, or we don't approve of that, or we want this. Or you could have like, oh my gosh, we want our best friend to be our officiant. And they're like, I have stage fright, I'm not doing it. Like, so a lot of square three is understanding that like it's so normal to have to like keep going back and reiterating. So it's like you have a dream, you're going to watch it like fail in the real world. A lot of people, that's just going to come simply through like budgeting. Like, oh my God, I had no idea it cost this to do this. And so like their dream dies for budgetary reasons, but then you go back to square one and like you go back to square two, and you first you dissolve that, like what you make that mean and all of the drama around it. And then you get creative again and come up with a new plan. So it's like you can sort of see like square three is like, woohoo, we've got our plan. And then like in little ways, that plan's going to get checked up. People are going to screw with you. This is where the opinions come in and all that extra stuff. And it's like being really willing now to like go back, dissolve, and reimagine and like keep coming back. And this is like the arduous, painful journey, mostly that is wedding planning. Um, because people usually kind of go through one and two pretty quickly because they're so excited and they want to like get that to that, like, I want to pick my florist and I want to do all the things. So like this is the bulk, square three is the bulk of wedding planning. And of course, these people, that's the key. Like that's where you're like, well, I'm good with it. My fiance's good with it, but like there's all these other humans involved. So after square three, the good news is though, this is sort of like the promised land. This is when you've like got your plan, things are in place, you've got enough agreement and like buy-in from the people that really matter and that are going to make it go. And so you kind of take a deep breath, except you just keep in the back of your mind, change is always coming. This is like sort of where wedding planning mirrors like your larger life, like especially the poor Corona brides, right? Like you had your plan and then coronavirus came. So it's like you get your wedding plan and then you understand in the back of your mind, but like there's always going to be change around the bend. It's like anything, like with your routine with like your kids. It's like this is good and then they get older and it changes. Like we learn how to do nap time and then they stop taking naps. There's something like that. So think of square four as like where you get to exhale, you've gotten your plan, you've executed most of it, you're in the promised land. So you're just trying to maintain what you've built, make small adjustments, and then you just want to get into like the infinity loop. This is like where you're just like resting and playing. So it's like in your bigger life, you want things to be in square four as much as you can, where you're just like enjoying things. You're, whether it's your relationship or wedding planning feels like fun, and then let's stop and like take a rest from it, and then back to when you're engaging in it, it should feel like play. Like it's the same thing for you. You hope that your job feels like that. You hope that parenting feels like it's like rest and play is sort of the infinity loop that we're going for in our life, that we can start to see in square four. You can't really even see it in the other areas because you're so focused on doing the work of those squares. So here's the thing. You can understand the change cycle and how it's affecting you. And that I think is half the battle, is if you're understanding, okay, this is normal. I'm in square one. It's going to feel like this. Or I'm in square two, where all I can do is think about a million possibilities and all the types of bride I want to be. And then in square three, you're like, why is this so damn difficult? I can't get this person to call me back. I can't get a price on it. Like, and reiterate and do all the things. But the problem with wedding planning is your wedding is changed not only for you, so it's causing this huge catalytic event in your life, but it's doing it for your fiance in a different way. It's doing it for your friends and it's doing it for your family. So, like, the problem with weddings is like all these people, your wedding is causing the catalytic event for all these other people. And it's interesting for you, you're kind of like, well, I chose it and that can help it be better. For other people, they're experiencing it a little differently. They didn't choose this. Like, it's upending their life and they feel like a little more like of the car accident. They can feel a little more car accident vibe, like shocked, like, my brother's getting married. And it's like I didn't sign up for this. I didn't ask for this. Like, and yet it's affecting your life because it's affecting your family and the dynamic and it's changing everything forever. So it is a big deal, especially for the family and for the friends. Like, you could have a girlfriend who is planning a great single summer of going out with you and then you show up engaged. It's like that could be like a shock. That could be like a huge event in her life that she feels like she didn't sign up for. So the problem is everyone's going through their cycles and squares and we're all in different places at different times, and it can be really frustrating because it always sort of goes back to that bride carrying the brunt of the emotional change back attacks. And that's what I put here. Like, you have to remember, like, your lizard brain, that reptilian part of you, your survival mode, is always scanning the environment for lack. Like, is there enough for me? Like, can I survive? Or attack? Is someone coming for me? And you'll see a lot in wedding planning too, especially with like the families. There's this sense of like, well, is there enough? Is there enough of like my brother to like care about me still if now he's going off to get married? Like, people won't say this, but this is where they're operating from. Or they're going to feel attacked. Like, well, his fiance looked at me weird. Like, she's so gross. Like, so it's like they'll juggle between like lack and attack because it's just their reptilian brain, like not being able to get online with like having a more sophisticated view of like, hey, you know what? I mean, I can be happy for my brother that he's found the love of his life, and at the same time sad that I might be losing him and scared about what that means and feeling unsure about this new human in my life and needing to feel her out. Like, people don't want to do that nuance, so they just go into like, well, he's leaving us, or he's not doing what he wants, or she's a bitch and I don't like her. So it's like they go to these, it's just the reptilian part of the brain. And it's so annoying and it's so frustrating, especially for the bride who is often sort of at the center of the storm and feeling really exhausted herself to have to deal with it. And that is why my business is all about creating more emotional, psychological, relational capacity for brides, because you need it to get through this. You're just at the center of the storm. And so, what I like to talk about with brides is like how to get ocean energy. Like, before you're engaging with disgruntled bridesmaids or even your fiance who might be suddenly in a bad mood and all jacked up about work and moving in together or whatever, your parents, your in laws, try to get into the space of like flexible, because that's important. Flexible, you want to feel and appear flexible. Transparent, like, look, I'm not hiding anything. Like, it might feel like you don't know me anymore because I'm engaged now, but so let's talk. Like, I'm still me for all of your like childhood friends and all the people close to you who suddenly feel like all this distance that is created in their own mind. It's really good to like give that feeling of transparency, openness, be willing, be like, ask me questions, tell me what you don't like, like, openness is great, and yielding, showing that like, oh wow, bridesmaid, you really feel uncomfortable showing your shoulders and like it keeps you up at night. How can I yield to that and like accommodate that? And I think that is such a powerful thing if you can yield to people close to you and show that you care. At the same time, there's that unstoppable energy of the ocean. So it means that while you're going to be open and yielding and transparent and honest, you're also like not going to be stopped. Like, you're going to marry the love of your life. You're going to do this. You're going to have a great wedding. You're going to have a great life. Like, the more grounded you can be in that, and just the humility and the calmness, like, this people are going to try to give you that like lizard brain, like lack and attack energy, which feels like conflicty fight energy. And it's so easy to get swept up in it. But you don't have to. Like, if you can get your energy where it's so calm and like you can, like, again, you can just take the crashes, you can take those waves, you can ride it at any point. There's like a meditation I love doing with brides where you picture like what happens on the surface of the ocean and like there's waves, there's storms, like all of the different things that are happening on the surface. But when you go under the water, it's always the same calm, still, like huge, vast energy of calm. And so it's a great meditation that I do where we just take you through like that feeling of like, how do I get out of here? How do I get off the surface and go really deep down and like feel what that feels like and anchor yourself there? Because that's really who you are. That is what this decision is. Like, you're doing a change that you want to do, that you're excited to do, and you're welcoming everyone to be a part of it. But there's going to be a ton of drama on the top, and that's okay if you understand how to manage your energy in it. It's amazing how you can set the tone for other people to respond to you. And it takes practice, but there's so many studies that have been done on it, like what you're saying inside yourself, what you're saying about yourself, what you're saying about other people internally, you can feel it. So if you're sitting there saying like, I hate my sister-in-law, they can feel it, right? So it's like there's that static that comes in the air. But if you're just like, ah, like, I know she's confused. I know she's nervous. I know she's upset, but I'm just sending her love and trusting that in the end, we're going to see eye to eye and it's going to be fine. And I trust that this is all unfolding the way it needs to. And just that really big, expansive, but strong energy is everything. So that is my sort of overview for you of the change cycle. And again, like think of it, it works with wedding planning, but it's literally how you do all of life. Like life is just one big change cycle over and over in all the little parts of our life, in the big parts of our life. And the better you understand and can say, like, oh, I'm in this stage. Let me treat myself this way. Like, I'm in this stage. Let me do this. Like, you'll be able to pinpoint, okay, where you need to be, what you need to do, again in stage 1 and 4, or well, 1 and 2 and 4 too. It's like you want to just small stuff, a lot of internal work, a lot of like if you're in stage 1, it's a lot of grieving and letting go and dissolving and really a lot of tenderness and kindness. Stage 2, it's like, ooh, let's dream and scheme, but we don't need to tell everybody all our thoughts and plans because like we're not really ready for that. And then in 3 is where you're like, all right, real world, I'm bringing it to life. Like, let's get out there. And then you get all of the feedback from the other people. And then in stage 4, things are moving and you just make tiny tweaks to just improve the happiness or success of your wedding, your marriage, your life, whatever it is you're doing. So I hope that helps. I am obviously very passionate about it. Once I understood it, it changed everything for me. I find that it is so helpful for my clients. And so I definitely want to invite you, if you want to sort of dive into this further, understand it better, get help with it. I offer 2 ways that you can work with me. There is the bridal coaching, which is a 3-month journey. Sort of we link up and I am like right there with you. Everything that comes up, because it's a little bit like whack-a-mole when you're planning a wedding. Like you think you got this straight and then this instant comes up or that. So the bridal coaching, it's like you've got me on the phone, one-on-one, walking you through every step of the way. It is like the most luxurious and fun way to be a bride. Like, this is your moment. This is your chapter. It's like you're doing all the things for like the hair, the makeup, the dress, the decor. Like, you want this beautiful wedding, and I want that for you too. And I also know the only way you're going to experience it is if you do that inner work and you do this relationship work. It's so powerful. And unlike your flowers, the lessons that you learn, the skills, the strategies, the techniques last your life. Like that's why this is the gift that keeps on giving. This is the work that's got to be done. Um, it's not got to be done, but it just pays dividends. Like it literally sets you up for so much success in your marriage, which is what everybody who is involved in your wedding wants. Like everybody wants you to have an amazing marriage. That's really what it's about, a beautiful day that leads to like this beautiful chapter. So that is one way I work. And the other way, it's kind of a fun um, thing I've started doing is bridal 911 calls. And this is for like the bride who basically things are good, you've got it going on. Um, there's no major issues, but there might be just like one decision you can't make. So maybe it's like, do I fire my bridesmaid? Like everything's fine except there's this one really big sticking point. And I don't know how to handle it. Or who should walk me down the aisle? Or look, we really think we want to elope and I just want to make sure I don't regret it. So I think the Bridal 911 is great for just getting that one-on-one support with, again, someone who's not only professionally trained in how to help you find your voice and figure out what you really want. Because again, I'm not an etiquette expert. This isn't about coming to me for the right answer. You have the right answer. I just have the tools and techniques to help you get to that answer. Um, and so these Bridal 911 calls are so good for that, just giving yourself that safe container to breathe, really connect with what you want, and then together we strategize exactly how we're going to implement and get you there um, using the path of least resistance. Um, and so that you can be back on your merry way with your wedding. So reach out to me. To schedule those. And I am always happy to help. Follow me on Instagram. I should have put it on here at Kara Gassabay. I'm always putting up lots of free stuff, helping answer people's questions. Love anything I can do to help my brides find their bridal bliss. So thank you so much for joining me today. And I will see you next time. Happy wedding planning.